Hello and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Closing Deals in Heels. Here I am having a special guest on my show today, Miss Natalie Strump. Miss Natalie.
Miss Kayla.
Natalie's on my team, and when we were discussing what to do on this next podcast, and I was talking about who we should interview, she did a 180 flip on me and told me that she wanted to interview me. And this happened accidentally last week when we started filming content, and she started asking me questions, and it got really deep, really soon, really personal, really vulnerable. And it was just like, there's so much there. We need to crack it open. I'm honestly a little scared. I'm a little scared as to what we're going to do today. Natalie, what is your intention here? So we can...
Don't worry about it.
Oh, God. No, I think that the most important thing is that our hearts are to help other women that are in sales really learn how to embrace every single thing that they are and understand how to live their life on their terms unapologetically, being the most bold, most powerful, most loved version of themselves. And if any part of my story can help you have permission to step into that version of you and know that anything is possible for you, we want to give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to start from the very beginning. And what made you become the woman that you are today? Like truly, like you as a kid, you have so much to be able to unpack there. And you mentioned a couple stories that really like shaped your life, that gave you some revelations within your life. And so I kind of just like want to talk about those little things, but where did it all kind of begin? Little Kayla.
Little Kayla.
Little Kayla.
I think I had a really good childhood up until a certain point. And so it was really interesting for me when I looked back, because I had no idea that there was ever issues because my parents hid everything from me. And so the one thing that shaped me into becoming the woman that I am today is like tons of resiliency and like this willingness to never give up. Like there was always something inside of me that wanted to become like the best me that I could be. Even as a little kid, like it was really competitive, and I, really wanted to be all that I could be. Like if there was any type of competition or anything, like I'm going for first place. Any type of position that we're going for, like I'm going for the number one. Because I was just wired that way. Why would I want to settle for less when I could have more? And then through all the adversity that I've been through, to still get up. And I think that was the one thing that set me apart, because there's so many times where I could have given up. There's times that I've almost died in my life that I could have given up. But there was like something inside me that was fighting for more, because I felt like there was a big purpose for my life ever since I was a little kid. And we could definitely go into that for sure. But I think that's the number one thing that definitely set me apart.
Do you feel like your parents had any influence on like the resiliency as well, and like you becoming like this powerhouse of a woman like now? Like what did your parents have involved with?
So my mom, I grew up in a Mary Kay household. So my mom, she did Mary Kay, and I at one point got to live in her office. I was so excited because I was in her pink office. There was all this Mary Kay on the walls, and there was big gold posters, and my mom would always say this quote, right, from Mary Kay Ash: "Shoot for the moon so that you may land among the stars." And I believed her. I'm like, in my mind, what that meant was that if I can try as hard as I possibly can, I will land somewhere. That's halfway decent, And so I always thought that. And then she also told me another thing, which was everyone's walking around with a big sign on their neck that says, "I want to feel important." And I went to all these like seminars, and I would help my mom like do like these like makeup trays on Saturday mornings, and my mom would do $1,000 Saturdays, and I would go around and I would put all the little cleanser and the moisturizer, and I would help her. I would be her big helper and help with everything. And my mom took care of us on a Mary Kay household, and I had no idea that it was her taking care of us, because my dad, I had no idea that my parents ever had issues. So I thought that I thought that they were like in a perfect relationship because they never fought in front of us, and my dad would like dip my mom down in the kitchen and give her like this movie star kiss, and it was so over romanticized. Like I'm such a hopeless romantic. I think it's because of my parents, because, and the thing is that it was mostly fake. So, but I was wired to think as a little kid that that's what love was.
Did you ever notice any part of it, like being fake at all?
No. I never knew
So
that
you
my
all
parents
felt it
had
was real.
problems until they sat us down and told us that they were getting a divorce.
What age was that?
13.
Wow.
And so what I thought love was I'm having breakthroughs for myself right now. But what I thought love was that he would come, he would give us presents. Like, that's my love language, is gifts.
Yes.
And physical touch. And then like overly exaggerating, showing his love to my mom. And I thought that's what love was. Right? So he would like dance her in the kitchen or dip her down and give her a kiss in front of us. And I'm like, oh my God, like that is love. They would never fight.
So that's what you saw as your dad's side. From your mom's side, what did you feel like you had to do in order to receive that type of love?
I think my mom and I, it's interesting because I felt there's a lot of my childhood that I remember and a lot that I don't. Right? Like there's some aspects that I don't really remember, like especially 13, 14, like I've moments that I remember, but it was a little bit of a blur. And being the oldest kid, like your parents start paying attention to the younger ones more. So I was just super hyper independent always, and I had my own little spunkiness of who I was, and but always just so loving and like musical, singing, dancing, any way that I could, like be in the spotlight. It was always me. And I think that the way that my parents shaped my mindset, though, going back to the Mary Kay story, being in her office every day, being around people that thought like that every day, I started to believe like that ever since I was a little kid. And it caused resistance in my family because I believed that I could become anything because of them teaching me that when I was so young. And so I would hear things growing up like, be more realistic, or like, oh, like you can't do that. You can't dance for a living. You need to have a real job, or, like, why would you think like that? Or, hey, success isn't for everybody, or like, money isn't everything. And I would hear all these things, and it would confuse me because my identity was ingrained in me at such a young age that I could become anything if I shot for the moon and I landed among the stars. And that's why I was hyper competitive, like even like a jump rope competition when I was 5 for jump rope for the heart. They had all these kids. I remember this in this big gymnasium. Every little kid in 5th grade, they all gave us a jump rope, and we all had a jump rope, and whoever was the last person jump roping won. And I jumped roped in there for hours. There was no way that I was going to let anybody else out jump. I'm going to keep going. I don't care if it hurts. I don't care what's going on, but there's no way that I'm going to let someone beat me. And I don't know. I think that was really beautiful with like them influencing me like that. And my dad, he was in car sales my whole life. All my whole life, so that influenced me. He never had a job. He was always buying and selling cars my whole life. I would help him. And my dad, like, that's how we bonded, because there was no boys. So he would take me to the golf course, get me around cars, and I would listen to things that he would say, and I would try to repeat them like I was cool. Like my dad talked to me about, like, if you put like coolant in the car, it would make the AC or Freon. He was telling me if you put Freon in the car, it would make the AC blow cool. Right? And so we're selling this car, and I remember this one time where he's selling a car to a prospect, and I'm like, oh yeah, we put Freon in the AC, so now it's really cold, which basically insinuates that there's something wrong with the AC. But I think that I'm being smart by just reiterating something my dad said. So they're like, there's something wrong with the car, and then he lost the sale.
You lost it for him?
I lost the sale. Yeah, because I thought I was being cool because I understood about cars, but I was just so obsessed with like wanting to be like dad, and definitely he was always a hustle. He was always running around he had multiple phones, like always making it happen. We were on the car lot all the time. And yeah, I definitely think that influenced me for sure.
So you were watching your dad in car sales, and you were watching your mom and Mary Kay selling.
Yes.
And I feel like you probably learned a little bit from both of them.
Yeah.
So what was like the most important thing that you probably learned from your mom and like seeing her selling Mary Kay while growing up and like seeing your dad doing car sales? Like what was something that you feel like was ingrained in your brain at a young age that you learned from both of them?
Not being so afraid. You know, I think I was the #1 brownie troop leader in my, I was in my Girl Scouts.
There we go.
And I door knocked for Girl Scout cookies.
Let's go.
And my opening line was, would you want to buy 3 boxes or 5?
Yes.
Right? Like an option close at 8. Which I don't even do option closes now. Anyways, but I was not afraid of knocking on the door because I'm going to get what I wanted. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, this is all you have to do. And because there's so many customers coming into the car lot, we're talking to people all the time. My mom would walk up to random people in the grocery store and talk to them. I remember one time my mom had us with little Easter baskets and we had Mary Kay products and we walked around Kroger and tried to sell that. Oh, and I sold my eyeshadows that were in my basket. That's so funny because I forgot all about this. I'm remembering it now as I'm talking. But I've been in training for a long time. That's so funny. I forgot about that. Yeah, I've been selling stuff door to door, walking up to random people ever since I was a little kid. They taught me to do that. And what I didn't know is that my mom had us doing that because my mom was in survival mode, trying to take care of us kids, right? Because my dad and her would be like separated and stuff. We had no idea because they were off and on and off and on.
Yeah.
And so we were selling Saturdays, $1,000 Saturdays so she could pay for the bills. And I was helping her.
Can you talk a bit more about like their survival mode that you're mentioning about your mom?
When a woman is in survival mode, she is in her masculine energy, first of all, because she's just trying to make anything happen. Women are so incredible. They're very, very resilient because a woman does not have ego when it comes to providing for her family. A woman will work 3 jobs, being like really shitty minimum wage jobs just to take care of their family. A lot of men won't do that. If it's not the job that a lot of men, not most, not all, but a lot of men sometimes won't do a really shitty job that makes them look bad in order to provide. But women will, which is really interesting. So like a woman will go above and beyond and do crazy stuffs to take care of her family. And my mom has been in survival mode multiple times in my life. You know, once even where she would make sure we would eat and she didn't eat.
Wow.
And I think that I learned that from my mom too, because there's been times in my life and being in survival mode where I made sure my daughter ate and I went to bed hungry. And I think that we as women will make those sacrifices for our family and show up for our family. And it's so hard on us. And if we can't be the ones that break the cycle, it passes down generationally to our daughters and their daughters and their daughters, which is why I think that we get to stand for more women to learn skills and to heal themselves so we can heal generational trauma that's passed down. Scientifically, it gets passed down 7 generations deep. So the trauma that you're having right now, scientifically this is proven, it gets passed down through your genes or your DNA. I'm not exactly sure how it goes, but it's 7 generations back. Gets passed down. And so we're not willing to do the integration and healing work to heal all the stuff behind us. It gets continued to pass down and pass down. And so I think we need to stand to fix that and be a voice for the women that don't understand that they don't have to be in survival mode all day long, but they continuously to do it because of the love that they have for their kids and their family.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I want to go to like when you were 12 and when you were sat down with your parents and they told you that they were kind of getting a divorce at that point. Like, what emotions were coming up for you and what were like the next few years for you like from that?
Yeah. You know, like in a movie, when you watch a movie and it's all perfect and then all of a sudden like shit hits the fan. Like that was this scene in my life. It changed the trajectory of my entire life. Right before this happened, I was 13, by the way. Right before this happened, we actually won Family of the Year in the Houston Chronicle. Okay.
Wow.
Right. And I'm one of 5 kids. And my mom and dad, we went to church all the time. My dad was like an evangelist, would bring all these homeless people to church as well.
Wow.
Every week. My mom was on the praise team. And we had no idea that there was any issues. I found out my dad had massive amounts of infidelity and
Wow.
Was drugs, alcohol, all the things. And my mom hid it, and they sat us down. I'm 13 years old on the couch, and my mom's standing up. My dad's sitting on the couch, and my mom's crying, and she's like, tell them, and she's saying that we're going to divorce. And I'm looking at my dad's face, and I've done a lot of work around this, so I don't remember it as much as I did because it was such a traumatic event for me. But my dad's face was expressionless. He didn't say a word. And I was looking at him crying. I'm like, what are you talking about? Dad, do something. And he didn't do anything. He just sat there.
Oh, wow.
No expression. And my mom's crying. And I just left the house. I ran over to my best friend's house. I was telling her what happened because she lived a couple doors down.
What did your mom tell you?
I just remember her saying, like, we're going to divorce. And then yelling at my dad to do something and tell them what you did.
Oh, and he wouldn't say anything.
He just was silent, and we're all crying. So that's all I remember. Within 6 months, my dad was remarried to a woman that was 17 years younger than him, right? And apparently, she, like, my family even brought her to church with us at one point prior to that, which was crazy. And then my mom was remarried within 9 months. And my mom, the first person, like, my mom was very religious, so, like, the first person my mom was with was my dad, you know? So, like, in her mind, like, you know, wanting to do everything right, she got remarried to make sure everything was right, you know, with her, like, and God. And my mom had been a stay-at-home mom before then. So, at this point, my mom now has to get a job. Okay, and so my mom becomes a CPA, and our life changed. I had to move schools. We downsized houses because I was in a big house. Now I'm in a small houses that had, like, these huge tree roach cockroaches. So gross.
No.
Awful area. And I'm in a small room, and I went to a different school, and I don't have any clothes. The kids at school called me Walmart. My family didn't have anything. And before this, I was in, like, dance and gymnastics and things like that, so I couldn't do that anymore.
Oh, wow.
And now all I could do was cross country at school. I looked anorexic, and I was almost, like, hospitalized because of how small I was, because I wouldn't eat because I was so stressed out. I woke up every morning. I would get to school for cross country. I would run, like, 5 miles in the morning, and then maybe like 3 to 5 miles, depending on what it is. And then I would run after school. And then when I got home from school, I would run at night because I was so anxious, and all I could do was run. So I probably ran like 10 miles a day.
And how old were you, and how long did that
14 and 15.
14 and 15.
Or like
Wow.
13 and 14. Maybe 13, 14.
Wow.
7th and 8th grade. And I was so angry. My mom would come home from work, and she would go upstairs and she would lock herself in her room. And I felt like I would wake up. I would make sure my brothers and sisters were awake. Sometimes I would help with breakfast. And then when I got home from school, I would help them with their homework. And then I would help with dinner sometimes.
Wow.
And, like, sometimes, like, I would help, like, if they were afraid at night or something, I would help. I became a mom at 13 years old, you know, and I don't even know if my mom knows, like, how much stuff I was doing to help, because I wouldn't tell her, because I know that she was really upset with everything that she was going on. And again, that was only, like, that 9-month period before she was remarried that I was doing that part. But that part feels like it was for years.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that's like, because that's when she was single. She would go up and, like, walk. And then my mom got remarried, and we got into a bigger house. And, like, I didn't even know this guy that my mom, like, was moving us in with. Like, I had one meeting with him one-on-one where he, like, got me Starbucks and told me that he was going to, like, not hurt my mom or whatever. And then he never really talked to me again.
What?
Yeah. Really weird. And
How'd you meet him?
online or something, you know,
Okay.
and just it was a hot mess. And now we're living in this way bigger house. And I'm like, my dad, I don't even know what to do with him. And then my mom, I don't know what to do with her. And my whole world's upside down. And before this divorce happened, we were the center of their universe.
Right.
after this happened, we didn't matter. I felt like I didn't matter. My brothers and sisters mattered. I didn't matter. My dad left. My mom like is with some other guy, and I'm just like, well, what about me? And I felt my safety was ripped out from underneath me. No one was there to protect me. No one was there to love on me. Like, it was gone.
So you had like all this attention while growing up, and then all of a sudden it was like,
and then it was gone.
A complete shift.
Completely. And I remember I'm 14 years old, and I had this day where I get in a huge fight with my mom, and I end up moving in with my dad. So I had this moment, and I'm in my kitchen like a week before this huge event happens. This was the second large event that happened in my life, where I'm in my kitchen, and it's after school, and my mom has a big whiteboard, and there's all these markers in the whiteboard, and I dropped them all over the floor. And I remember, because I wore these itty bitty Hollister shorts, they were white. And I remember them because I bought them myself because my family couldn't afford it. Because this was I'm finally in high school. This is 14, I'm in high school. So I saved all summer long. I worked as a lifeguard all summer long because all the kids kept calling me Walmart. And I bought all Hollister and Abercrombie clothes by myself. Okay, so it's all about like wanting to not be made fun of anymore. And I'm wearing these itty bitty white Hollister shorts. I was wearing this like pink top or something. It's like maybe a hot pink Hollister top. And I dropped all the markers on the ground in the kitchen. And I thought I was home by myself, right? So I'm like picking them up off the floor, and I was like bent over and I was picking them up. And when I stood up, I see my stepdad's reflection in the window in front of me, staring at me as I was bent over picking up all these markers. And it scared me so much that I ran upstairs. Okay. A week later, my mom is telling us that we need to clean up the kitchen. And at this point, I'm actually anorexic because I didn't eat because I didn't want to be fat. So stupid. And my stepdad's a freaking slob. He's huge. He's fat. And so he eats so much food. And no offense to anybody that eats a lot of food, but it was like he just ate the whole kitchen. And I just had so much like anger towards that man. And like the kitchen's a freaking mess. You know, there's 5 kids there. My brothers are eating food, and it's a slob. And now they want me to do the dishes. And I don't eat because I'm starving myself. So in my 14-year-old little mind, I'm like, why the hell am I doing your shit?
Right.
You know, and I'm angry and I have emotions, you know, and no one is understanding it. And I don't know how to process my emotions. There's all this stuff that's going on.
Were you talking to any of your siblings about this, or were you like siloing yourself? And
I didn't tell anybody. It was like my job to not have any issues so I could take care of everybody.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And so they're telling me to do the dishes. I'm telling them no, I don't want to do the dishes. And I just remember my stepdad grabbing a chair, coming into the kitchen and straddling the chair, looking at me. And he was like, you're going to do the dishes. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch you do them.
Stop.
Yeah. And I'm like my chest, like, I'm like, fuck, like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I'm like, no. And I'm trying to go to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I can't do the dishes. And she's like, what? I was like, I can't do them. Like, I can't with him there. I can't do it. And she's like, what? Tell me. I said, I can't tell you or you're going to be mad at me. Okay. And she was like, I won't be mad at you. Like, what is it? And I was like, your husband is a perv. And she slapped me across my face. And I remember running upstairs and they running after me. I remember her throwing me into the wall, putting her claws in my arms, which, like, I love my mom. Like, I think that sometimes we go through stuff and situations get really heightened, and, you know, like, I forgive my mom, and my mom tells me that it's also hard because my mom tells me that this didn't happen. And my sisters all saw this happen too. So all my siblings saw this happen too. Okay. And so it's really hard because I think that when we are in, again, survival mode, sometimes we don't remember everything.
Yeah.
But I remember this really clearly. And she, claws in the back of my arms. They're yelling at me. I'm trying to explain to her what happened. She doesn't want to listen to me. I'm crying. They're yelling at me. They decide they're going to pick me up and carry me down the stairs to force me to do the dishes.
Both your stepdad and your mom.
And my mom are going to physically pick me up and carry me down the stairs to do the dishes. So my mom's behind me. No. My mom's in front of, they have me to the side, right? Like, they're carrying me to the side to go down. Yeah. And I just remember like holding them there. My stepdad's behind me, and then I'm being pushed. At a straight shot, I somehow landed like 4 steps down. So I don't know how far off the ground I landed or how far off the stairs, but I got pushed on the stairs. But I didn't get pushed on the stairs where I went, no. I got pushed down the stairs where I landed towards the bottom. Okay. And as soon as I hit it, my ears were ringing and I couldn't hear anything at that point. At this point, apparently they're still yelling at me, but it's silent at this point in my ears. It was ringing, it was silent, and my sisters were telling me that they were still yelling at me. And my mom had ran down after me and then got around me. And then I got up because I was going to run towards the door to leave, and my mom got in front of the door. She's like, "You're not going anywhere." And I ran towards the kitchen, and when you ran into the kitchen, so there was like the foyer, and there was the private like dining room, and then there was the kitchen here. So I ran in through the private dining to the kitchen, and in the kitchen there was 2 doors like this to the pantry that would open.
Yeah. And
I'm going towards the pantry, and I just remember my dad coming back up, pushing me. So I pushed into the pantry doors, and then I'm stumbling into the kitchen, and he pushed me again into the sink, and I hit the sink and I fell down to the ground, and my mom stood and it was just like, stop, and like was standing between like this, and she's like, stop, and I'm bawling, and I got up and I ran upstairs. And at that point, how fucking crazy at this point, they're like, all right, everyone, we're going to do dinner. And they sat down at dinner eating spaghetti and made all my brothers and sisters sit there as they ate spaghetti.
What were your siblings saying?
They were like all in fucking shock. Like they were like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, yeah.
Right? So at this point, like there's like landline still. So I go to pick up the landline to call my dad, and they cut the landline. They cut the landline. I had nothing to do, so I didn't know what to do. It is February. It is raining, and it's cold. And I packed my backpack, and I ran out the front door, and I'm running. And I run to another neighborhood, which is back where my old house was when I was 13, when my parents divorced. Yeah. And I was going to run over there and go stay with my friend. And then I'm running, and I'm like, crap, like, what am I doing? What's going to happen? It's raining. It's fucking cold. It's dark. And all of a sudden, my mom pulls up in the Suburban, and she's like, Kayla. She's like, I found her. I just remember her voice saying, like, I found her. She's like, get in the car, da 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 da. And I remember she taught me this when I was 5. So I turned around and I started walking the other way. And so she turned her whole entire Suburban around. And as soon as she turned the Suburban around, I turned back around and I ran in the other direction. And she taught me this when I was younger, if there was ever a stranger, because it takes longer for a car to turn around than a human.
Oh.
So I turned around, started walking the other way. She's like, wah. She's in a driveway, packing up, turn around. As soon as she parked up that way, turned around and bolted. And I found a bayou, like a bridge where there's like a bayou. I found one of those, and I lay down in the tall grass in the wet rain, and I laid there on the ground for hours. I just laid there, crying. I remember looking up at the sky and like seeing like this rain like hit my face, and being like, God, help me. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I was so scared for my life. Like, so scared. I didn't know what to happen. Like, So finally, it's like been enough time. I'm like, I'm going to have to go to a different friend's house that my mom does not know. So I get up, and I'm like walking back, and my mom, I see her coming around the Suburban again. And so I remember I got underneath the driveway, underneath someone's car in a driveway, and I sat there underneath their car, laying on the ground into the cement, and feeling like the cement scraped my legs and stuff, climbing underneath it. I'm shaking. Finally, she goes, and I get up and I run to a friend's house, and I knock on the door. I'm wet. This lady's opening the door, like, hi, is this in this person's home? I've been here once. I'm so sorry. Like, can you please help me? And she's like, she's in ballet, but she'll be home soon. And she opened up the door and she let me in. I'm crying. I'm telling them what happened. We called CPS, and I told them. And the CPS is like, hold on, I'm going to put you on hold. Calls me back and says, the police officers are at your house right now. Your parents are filing a runaway report that I ran away. And then the CPS connected to the officers that were at my house. And then they looked at my mom, and they were like, I'm sorry, we can't tell you where your daughter is due to her safety. And they left the house.
Wow.
And yeah, that was a freaking crazy ass moment. I believe officers went to my brothers and sisters' school to get statements. I think that my mom told my dad to drop charges, otherwise she would put him in jail for child support. So like the case was dropped. And yeah, that was like a freaking terrifying moment in my life. And I felt like at that moment, everything was like mostly survival mode until I was an adult from that moment.
From all of that happening.
Like, holy shit, let's just take a moment.
Let's just take a moment here.
I also want to preference this because, like, you know, like, and I'm really sorry for anybody that this upsets, you know, like, this is not, I'm not trying to put my mom on blast or anything like that. Like, I'm not, like, I love my mom so much, and I'm super grateful for my life because I wouldn't go back and change anything.
Yeah.
Because all these things that happened made me the woman that I am today and shaped me,
Yeah.
you know, and made me so strong. Like, I've been able to overcome so much shit from being conditioned so young.
Yes.
To overcome it. And I'm really grateful for the ability to do so because it's been really scary, and there's been moments in my life where I'm like, fuck, but definitely wouldn't change anything at all.
No, and that's what I like was gonna ask you is like, what do you feel like you actually learned from those years, like with your stepfather and with your mom, and like being with all of your siblings and having all of that happen? Like, what was the lesson that you feel like you learned actually from that?
I think the biggest thing was learning that, and I learned this way later in life.
Yeah.
Way later in life, I realized that I'm the one person that's never going to leave me.
Yeah.
I'm the one person that's always going to love me.
Yep.
It's me and my relationship with me. I also realized that, like, I could have been there more for my brothers and sisters because at that point, like, I had to save myself.
Yeah.
And then I feel really guilty because I left my brothers and sisters, like, there with them, you know? And I could have been more proactive at trying to, like, help. But again, like, I also have to give myself, I was a 14-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Give
I
yourself grace.
I couldn't have, like, really had the skills or the ability
No.
to help save that situation more. And I could be really mad and angry and blame myself and blame them. But, like, I was a little girl, like, that had her whole world flipped out from underneath her. And I moved in with my dad after that point. And at that point, like, I really wasn't parented really again, you know? And so I've really been on my own since I was 13 years old, really. And really didn't have that many rules after that point. And I was so reckless, like, as a teenager, consistently searching for the love and the attention and the affection that I was given for the beginning years of my life that I didn't have anymore. And I compromised my values. I compromised who I was in order to receive that love, attention, affection. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing because I was so young and I didn't understand. I understand that now when I go back, and that hurt, scared little girl that was inside of me.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I could give her a hug and love on her. But I'm also really grateful for that little girl because she never gave up. And she's part of the reason why I'm here today and why I'm able to do what I do today. And, like, that was only the beginning, like, you know, scratching the surface. There's so much more shit. Like, it's like, oh, you think it's gonna get bad? Like, nah, like, we're gonna sprinkle
Let's turn
on.
it up a notch.
Let's just, like, keep going up
going.
a few notches. Yeah. But what's really interesting is I had a really pivotal moment before any of this when I was 12 years old where I knew something bad was coming.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I remember feeling this overwhelming feeling because I felt really connected to God when I was younger. Like, I would, so connected. You know, I remember the church like giving me a microphone and letting me walk around and talk to people, and I'd be able to like speak life over them and tell them stuff about them that I shouldn't have known.
Really?
Yeah, like almost like prophetic. It was, and so I don't really talk about all that a lot, but I was so connected. I could see things and like.
Do you remember anything that you were saying in that church? Like, do you remember any of that?
No, I don't remember exactly what I would say. In like those moments, you don't really remember what you're saying.
Wow.
You're just saying
Kinda
things,
just like,
and I had some really crazy, amazing experiences when I was younger. And so I was so connected. And I remember being at 12 years old, and I knew that I was going to transform like millions of people's lives. And I could see myself like on stage and doing all this stuff at 12.
It's insane.
And I went to my mom. I was bawling my eyes out, crying. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to do it. I just remember saying, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And my mom was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? What's wrong? Like, I don't want to do it. She's like, what do you don't want to do? I'm like, I don't want to have to go through all of it. I don't want to do it. And what I meant to my mind was, I don't want to have to go through everything that I'm about to have to go through to be the woman that is going to do all those things. And I knew it at 12.
That's insane, yeah.
Right? And I remember it so vividly, so clearly. And like, it's so crazy to think about right now.
Yeah.
I can imagine my 12-year-old coming up to me crying to me, Mom, I don't want to do it. And me not understanding her. I'm like, hey, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But it was such a very spiritual like moment. And it was right before everything happened. And then I went through chaos from, 13 up until 26.
Wow.
So almost 13 years, 26, 27. Because I did more deep healing work like 4 years ago, and the work is never over, right? It's never over. And I think that if we give ourselves the ability to really look internally and heal, we have the ability to light other people's hearts and be the voice for those that don't have one.
Yeah.
And be able to transform this world, if we're willing to do the work and become the person, because we can run from it. And I had every opportunity to run so many times and I haven't.
What do you feel like the scariest moment was that you had from those 13 years that really kind of almost never made you like want to go back again? Like, never made you want to have that experience or that type of experience?
So my dad rededicated his life to God and becomes a pastor. And so now my dad has like all these rules about how I need to make sure that my life is blessed. And
Yeah.
there's so much that happened, right? Like, I get pregnant my first year of college.
Right.
I was going to school for ballet. I wanted to be a contemporary ballerina. I wanted to try out for Alvin Ailey Contemporary Ballet Company, and I'm pregnant with a baby, and I'm like, my whole life is over in my mind.
Yeah.
And her dad and I don't work out, and then I started dating a different guy, and we get married because my dad basically forces me to get married.
Wow.
I find out that he's a raging alcoholic. I had no idea. Completely absent to it, because he would hide it. There would be water bottles in our house that would be filled with wine, white wine. I would have no idea. We'd find wine in pantries, wine in laundry baskets, and he would get blacked out drunk, and he would hurt me. And there wasn't a day that I would go by that I wouldn't get pushed, pinched, stepped on, hair pulled. I remember asking him for a divorce. He punched me in my face. My daughter saw him drag me across the floor by my hair, throw me down the stairs as well. There was a moment where we're at a conference and he gets blacked out, thinks I'm his ex-wife. He's trying to kill me. He's on top of me, choking me out. And I woke up the next morning. I have no idea how I woke up. I just remember the last thing was him on top of me, choking me, and me waking up the next morning. So God saved my life that night. Or a moment where I'm on my living room floor. It's 4:00 in the morning. And I'm being kicked in my stomach over and over and over again, and I'm looking up at the sky and I'm begging God to save my life, and my 3-year-old daughter's in the next room. And I think about, like, when I say this shit, I'm like, how the fuck, like, did I let that keep happening?
When did that all start like happening? Did it happen like a month in as soon as you married him, or did it happen like a week after you guys got married? Like,
It was just slowly over time, like we got married, and then there's a couple instances where he got really blacked out drunk and yelling and angry, but he never
but he wasn't
hurt
like that
me.
before you guys got married.
No, I think that he had one incident where he got angry, but it wasn't at like me,
Okay.
right?
Huh.
And then, he just started hurting me. And then it was super confusing because we were training to be youth pastors at church, right? So I'm like confused. I'm going to God, and then and it was so weird because when you're in a toxic relationship like that, the bads are really bad and the goods are really good, and they do things like apology flowers. And I would get apology flowers once a week. These gorgeous, like huge bouquets of flowers. And I remember one year where I got diamond earrings for Christmas. But it was because I got hurt the day before. And there's just a tremendous amounts of over like giving and hurting and. Yeah, I thought it was just the alcohol. It's not him. I'm like, it's alcohol.
Yeah.
And we go on a vacation with my family on a cruise. And during the cruise, we're both not drinking. Because I had taken him to hospitals to get sobered up. We were going to all these AA meetings, all this shit. Like, I'm just trying to help him, trying to be a good wife.
Yeah.
And praying for him every day.
Wow.
Praying that his words that he would say to me wouldn't affect me. They would bounce off me.
How old were you?
23.
23, and you guys were married, and
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And you knew to do that.
Yeah, and it was bad. It was really bad. One time, like, I'm asleep and I locked my door because he was drunk and he came in and my daughter was with me and he ripped her out of my arms while I was sleeping. Like, scary ass shit. Scary. That night that he was kicking me on the floor, so this is this moment. Because I didn't realize that God was priming me to be who I am.
Yeah.
Because this moment on the floor, I'm asking God to save me, and I have this brilliant idea that I'm going to convince him that I'm the one that's drunk and not him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not drunk. I'm drunk. I don't deserve to be around you. I don't deserve to be in your presence. Like, I'm not worthy of you. I shouldn't even be here. Like, you're right. Like, I'm gross. I'm nasty, whatever. Like, you should call your mom and have me be removed from your presence because I don't deserve to be around you. And he freaking believes me. Calls his mom at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning and is telling her, like, she's drunk. You should come get her, da, da, da. She shows up at my house because she knows he has an issue, right? He doesn't even recognize her, throws her up against the wall. I grab my phone, which was dead at the time, run into the bathroom, and I'm calling the police and charging my phone, and he starts kicking the door. And this was one of those, like, scariest moments of my life, because I'm in the bathroom, and the door is being kicked, and the door starts being cut in half. The door starts being kicked inwards, and so there's like a thud, and the door literally is 180 degrees towards me like this. And finally, the phone turns on. I call 911. I put on speaker. It goes, 911, what's your emergency? And as soon as it says that out loud, him and his mom leave. I remember falling to the ground, bawling my eyes out because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to die tonight. Wow. I thought I was going to die.
What did you feel in that moment?
When you're in fucking shock like that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even process. You're just like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Right.
And I didn't realize that moment was so pivotal until I saw Ed Millett speak on stage about like one more day. He has this speech, and he talks about how he was a kid and he would listen to his dad at 5 years old and the way he would jiggle his keys, whether or not he was drunk or not. And then when he came in, he would try to be like, Dad, I got this in sports today. I got an A on my test. And he would convince his dad to get to the couch, because if he couldn't get his dad to the couch, he would keep drinking.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't know that God was like priming him to be so influential today in everything that he was doing. I'm like, I learned how to influence and persuade in the scariest moments of my life. And I didn't realize that God was priming me to be the woman that I am today. And even that moment of like my ability to influence somebody. Right? And I think that it changed my perspective on it so much, because like, how fucking scary, and not even from that, going from that. And then I was like, I want to change my life. And so I wanted to love myself because I didn't like myself at all. I had to go back to being a waitress because I was a wine director, but I needed a higher income. So 2 incomes became 1. I'm like, I'm going to start over. I'm waitressing again. And I'm with the chef at my work, and he's a bodybuilder. He had told me about like a competition that he was doing. I've never even heard about this stuff before. So I go online.
How old?
I'm 24, almost 25.
Okay.
Maybe I'm 24. And I look up online and I see these women that are bodybuilders, and they look like muscle Barbies. Okay. I think I actually look like a muscle Barbie now. So I'm really grateful because at this moment in my life, I did not look like a muscle Barbie. I was a little thick, and not the right areas. And I felt awkward and didn't like myself at all. When you've been like told every single day that you're worthless for like a year and a half, and that no one would ever love you, and that you're not meant for anything, and that you're stupid and you're not smart, you'll never make it, and you're told that every fucking day, you don't think highly of yourself at all.
Right.
At
it's
all.
Just your environment.
It's your environment. I was conditioned to believe that I was worthless and that I deserved nothing, and so I take this picture. I go to LA Fitness and I walk up to the front and I show this guy this picture and I'm like, I want to look like that. Can you help me?
Did you just print out a picture and you...
I either had it on my phone or I printed it out. I can't remember. I was just like, please. And I remember this guy, he puts his hands crossed and he leans back and he looks at me up and down. And it seemed like a very long time. He was looking at me up and down. He's like, it's going to take you over a year to even get close to looking like that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. I'll do it.
I'm so you.
Right? And so he starts training me and gets me with this guy and they're training me. And I pick out a show in August and I have 9 months out. I'm like, I'm doing it. 9 months out. And I start training for this training. And I have this guy, he's training me. And he has me doing abs every single day.
Oh my God.
Every day. A lot of weight on it too. And I'm looking and I'm learning more and I'm following all these different influencers online about bodybuilding. And I listen to this. I've been training with this guy for 6 months. And I see someone online that's like, yeah, bikini, we don't want to see turtle shells. We want to see long lines. So you shouldn't be doing a lot of abs while you're training for bikini. And I'm like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's not training me for a show. He's just training me for a client. He doesn't actually know how to get me ready for a bikini show. I'm like, crap. So I go and I search for a bodybuilding gym in Houston. I call them and I'm like, I have a competition. I need someone to get me ready. Who can help me? And they put me with this guy.
Oh, because of the abs.
Because of the abs. I was like, you don't know what you're doing. Man, you have to have a good teacher.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail, man. You have to have somebody that knows how to get you what you want, right? The right person, the right mentor that actually can help you, that's helped people before. And I get with this guy, and it's 3 months out at this point. He puts me on this crazy diet meal plan. For the first time, I had abs in my whole entire life because he changed my meal plan and put me on this thing. And every single day he worked with me. This is how I learned about manifesting. Every single day that he worked with me, he was like, you're a champion. First place. I want you to envision you getting first place. Guess what the other person's doing right now? Your competitor, they're going to do one more rep.
Oh, wow.
And every day we would be doing lunges and I'd be crying, man. And I would. Every single day I would on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes, I would imagine my ex-husband hitting me, punching me, hurting me. And I would keep going because it would fucking hurt so bad. I'm like, no. I'm not letting him win. It was like I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
And sorry, I never think about this stuff anymore. But I was like, I'm going to do it. And at this time, I started listening to motivational stuff. This is where I found Tony Robbins because his voice is so particular. And I would listen to him on the Stairmaster, him, Billy Alsbrooks, Eric Thomas. I would listen to these guys on the Stairmaster. And I was conditioning my mind to think differently. And I finally decide that I'm going to write this memoir about what happened in my life. And
wow.
I write out one called Embracing Your Inner Badass. And I start writing this blog about all these experiences that I went through as I'm doing this. So I'm conditioning my body, conditioning my mind. In 9 months, I won my first competition.
Dang, in 9 months.
I won. Yeah, so I got first place. I got second place in novice, first place in first place in novice, second place in open. And I got qualified for nationals. So I went to nationals after that, which is really cool. And I envisioned all this stuff that was happening. And at the same time, I write this blog and I become a personal trainer too. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer to start my own business. And I'm also waitressing. And I'm like doing both at once. I'm starting to like take pictures and like post online. Like my slogan was Fit Lady Kayla. And I started like all this like fitness modeling stuff, and I felt sexy for the first time in my life. I felt beautiful. It was a different era. For the first time, like guys would pay attention to me. People would talk to me when I would walk. I was officially the pretty girl. Like I had never been the pretty girl before.
Do you think like that right there like instilled the confidence that you feel like you needed? 'Cause
yes.
You had lost that in your past and what had happened to you, and this point it kind of seems like this is what
did it.
confidence.
I think it's because of how I was wired as a child.
Yeah.
When I was younger, the only way for my dad to pay attention to me is if I was talented.
Oh wow. Yeah.
When I met my stepmom for the first time, he made me sing for her, made me perform for her. So if I did something great, then I was worthy.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's how I was wired. I won first place. It made me feel worthy of the body that I had worked for. At that point, I felt beautiful. I also got my teeth fixed at the same time. And then afterwards, like I bought boobs. And that definitely helped. Having boobs helps, I'm telling you. Especially if both of your younger sisters have them naturally and are making fun of you every day.
Yeah.
You know, and so you constantly feel like there's something wrong. But I think at that point, like I gave myself permission to be me and to love the way I looked on the outside. Now, I didn't necessarily love all the things on the inside yet because I needed to heal. But I was like, oh, I worked so hard for this body.
Were you 25 at this time? Or now 26? Or
this is 24
24 still?
24.
Okay.
24. And also you have to think about like psychologically, I was mentally not there after I had my daughter because I was training to be a ballerina. I was anorexic. I was bulimic before I had her, before I was pregnant. And my identity was being really small. And then with her, I gained 68 pounds. So my identity about my body went completely out the window.
Wow.
You know, I went through all this. And so like this, I was okay. I was never really okay with my body until 24. At 24 years old, I was finally okay with my body after years of anorexic and bulimia and not liking myself and feeling gross, having somebody tell me I was disgusting every day. It was like at 24, I finally loved who I was on the outside. So it was like this moment. And then I think that exudes confidence everywhere else. You know, it just all flows. And then I was working on the inside too because I was starting to go into personal development. I wrote this blog. And I give it to one of my personal training clients. She loves it. She sends it to one of her friends who happens to be on the board of the Lamborghini Festival in Houston.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, we love this girl. Bring her in. You know, I'm like.
All in who you know.
Okay, really?
All in who you know.
One person away, right?
That's crazy.
So they bring me into this event to be the spokesmodel. And there's a private event and there's a public event. So I go to the private event and I had valeted my car. And like their city center, I rode with the lady that, you know, was on the board there. And I walk up and we're in a private airplane hangar. I've never seen a private airplane in my life. All of these sports cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, like, and a accumulation of wealth. Everyone is head to toe in designer. I don't even know what designers were. I called Hermes, Hermes, like at that point. I swear to God. Givenchy, I called it Givenchy. You know, like, I don't know. Whatever. Embarrassing. Chanel, you know, so Chanel.
You did not say Chanel.
I swear. I didn't know. And, yeah, please. If anyone ever wants me to go to their show, I didn't mean to say that. But just manifesting, putting that out there. Paris Fashion Week, it's going to happen one day. But I was so uncomfortable. I walked, I was so uncomfortable. I remember I bought this dress for this at like a Macy's for like $200, and that was like a lot of money for this event. It's actually gorgeous. It was a purple dress. I still have it for this thing, and I spoke there at this event. And as I'm leaving, like, there's so many things that led up to this moment happening. Because, like, first of all, they asked me if I wanted to be in a ride, go on a ride in the Lamborghini Urus, which the Urus had just came out at that point. I'm like, hell yeah, I do. So I'm riding around in that. And then I'm riding around a sports car for the first time. So they drive me around a sports car. And then one of the models on the runway took all the stuff there, including the lady's keys that I was with. And we didn't notice because on our way to the dressing room, some girl dropped a whole case of wine glasses. There was glass shattered everywhere. So we had to help clean that up.
Okay.
So all these different things had happened to where we get there and we realize the model took the keys. And I had to go back home, and this guy comes in. He's like, hey, are you guys okay? Da, da, da. We're like, oh, we're trying to find the model with the keys. And he was like, oh, okay. And he leaves. And he just happened to come back in again. I was like, hey, are you going back to Century Center? Can you please drive me? Because my daughter's home with the nanny. Can you please take me? So if all those 5 different things didn't happen, I wouldn't have had this conversation with this guy. He's like, yeah, I'll take you. So he's taking me to his car. And
Did you know who this guy was?
No.
Like, okay.
But he was like in charge of the event.
Right.
Like, and he gets me in this McLaren. It has butterfly doors, right? I don't know how to get in and out of this thing. I'm like, I don't fucking open this.
Where's the handle? Or...
Yeah, I know. I was
okay, cool.
And I'm like, holy crap. So I'm in this car. I'm like, holy crap. And so we start talking. And I'm obsessed with Tony Robbins at this point. Obsessed with everything. We start talking about life. We're talking for such a long time. Like for like an hour in this car. Like just, we sat in City Center and we kept talking. And I just remember like the valet, he pulled out this case and opened this case and like handed me a crisp 20 of cash that was in there for my valet. I just remember that. I'm like, what the hell? He's like, here. And I just remember walking back to my car and I was doing a little extra strut back to my car because I'm like, oh, McLaren guy, you know, like I was so excited about McLaren guy. And I'm like, holy crap. And so the next day is the event. And I go to this event and there's 30,000 people there. I'm speaking, you know, at this event. And this lady says she feels really tired. And I was like, oh, you just need to move your body. You won't feel tired anymore. And this guy next to me is like, how do you know that? I'm like, oh, Tony Robbins says this and da-da-da. He was like, oh, this guy, the McLaren guy, knows Tony Robbins. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? They're like, he knows him personally.
Stop.
Wow. What do you mean McLaren guy knows Tony Robbins personally?
What do you mean?
You know? And like, I'm totally flirting with McLaren guy. Like, I remember we're even having like coffee at one point and like I go get a rose latte. He's like, why rose? I'm like, because it's an aphrodisiac. Like, I'm just 24 and like my eyes are bright, you know? I'm excited. And then I find out that he has a girlfriend at the event.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, meh, screw McLaren guy. Like,
Dang
whatever,
it.
damn it,
Darn.
right? And so I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, shucks, right? And so then I find like he knows this guy, so I'm just like, I have to talk to this dude. You know, as I go find him at the end, I'm like, hey, guy, like, it's 10 p.m. at night. I'm like, how do you know Tony Robbins? That's right in there. Right?
You really just like got straight to the point.
Straight to the point. He's like, who told you that? I'm like, so-and-so, this was what happened. He goes, well, my mentor was Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was also Tony Robbins' mentor. And that's who mentored me. And I'm like, what? A mentor? Like, how the hell do you get a mentor like that?
Yeah.
He's like, well, are you serious? I was like, yeah. He was like, I'll tell you what. And he had mentioned to me about a mentee that he had for the past like 3 months, and I was mentoring them. And I'm like, how do I get this mentor? And he's like, I'll tell you what, if you go home and you listen to the Challenge to Succeed 10 times, which was like a seminar by Jim Rohn. It was like 9 hours long or something like that. If you listen to it 10 times, I will have a conversation with you. I was like, okay. And I left. And I went home and I looked it up online. It was $40. I maxed out a Discover credit card buying this thing. And I listened to the whole thing within a day. And I messaged him. I was like, 1 down, 9 to go. And he was like, are you serious? I said, yes. He said, I want you to come meet me at a coffee shop on Friday. And I remember before I went to this coffee shop, I was like, I just want to be really clear that this is for business. Because I know you have a girlfriend and I don't want to cross the lines here. I was
How
a
mature
girl's
of
girl,
you.
though.
You were.
I was like,
There
I was
you
a
go.
girl's girl, you know? And I was like, hey, I just want to make sure. And he was like, no, like all business, everything. I'm like, okay. And I'm staring at this little coffee shop, and we're like upstairs in this little part, and I'm sitting in front of this stranger, bawling my eyes out, telling him all the reasons why I couldn't be successful.
Wow.
It's like dropped out of college, dropped out of school,
Yeah.
parents divorced, you know, they never helped me with my homework. No one ever cared, you know, no money, pregnant. And as a teenager, my ex-husband like physically abused me. Like I'm working
All the reasons why you can't.
All the reasons
All the
why I
reasons
can't.
why you
Victim mentality, right?
Victim
I had no
mentality.
idea.
Damn.
And at this point, you know, I went back to school. So I was back in school full time. I had a 4.0 in biology, chemistry, biochem pre-med, biochem molecular biology.
Smart.
I found Adderall. That's what happened. That's what happened. I didn't understand that I had a problem until I had that. I don't take that now. I take more healthy stuff now. Shout out to the Mind Ready stuff. This is good. And the elixirs with the kava and the crantum.
The Modern Warrior?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, and the drops.
Oh, and the drops. Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. But I didn't realize that I was actually smart. And so that gave me permission too, because I got the 4.0. Do you see a pattern here? Like, yeah. And I'm telling him all these reasons, and I was in school full time. I was still working at night, and I was personal training during the day. And all this stuff, and he's like, it sounds like you're on a hamster wheel, not going anywhere.
Wow.
I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. And he was like, I want to give you an opportunity. But if you come work for me, you don't do anything else. Which means you quit everything and you come work for me.
And this is a McLaren guy.
This is a McLaren guy. It was a Friday. On Monday, I quit my job. I quit school. I quit my business. And I started my first sales job in B2B sales.
Start of your sales journey. Well,
sales journey.
Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies. I don't know. Brownie girl over here.
Brownie girl.
But yeah, like that was like, you know, like when it's like, and then in the movie there's like a moment where everything starts getting better. That was the moment that everything started. That was one person can change the trajectory of your life. However, the opportunities come for all of us. Some are not willing to burn the boats. Like, I was willing to do fucking anything.
Yeah.
You know, to be successful, and I was willing to take a chance. And those moments, I've had 3 of those moments in my life. That was the first one, where I was like, eyes on the prize. My family thought I was crazy. You know, I'm just like, I will do anything.
What were they telling you? What was your family telling you?
Oh, that's risky. You need to make sure you keep your job. You don't know this people. I'm like, oh, well, you're finally not going to be a waitress anymore. At least we have some clout. I remember my first day, I wore pantyhose and a skirt to the office. I was trying so hard, like so awkward. And we were around cars all the time. I felt so uncomfortable. The girl in the office, I remember she wore Christian Louboutins and like had all this like designer stuff all the time. And I like wanted it so bad. Now it's my life. It's so funny, but I was definitely like the beginning and just feeling so inadequate in that space. Like I didn't belong there, you know, and now it's like my world. So it's so interesting being on the other side of it. I think that sometimes people just think that people wake up and they just have all this shit.
Yeah.
Like, nah. No. I remember going to a party and not knowing anything that people were talking about, feeling awkward, wearing a cocktail dress instead of a formal dress, and like being made fun of, you know, and feeling like I was just like this, like talked my way in or something, you know.
Right.
And then learning how to be in this world, because that's what it was about. So in their B2B role is like you wanted to develop relationships with people. So we went to all these car events, these black tie parties, and all this stuff that made me feel super uncomfortable. But I did it because I liked being in that space. And starting to learn how to talk to people and how to have interactions. And I would have to walk onto job sites and collect these blueprints from builders and then get it to where we could take over the client eventually and sell these huge systems for smart homes. And the states were like 10,000 square feet and up. So the type of caliber of people that we were talking to were unlike, you know, what I was used to. And I was used to talking to those type of caliber of people, but as a waitress.
Right.
Not as one of them. So it was hard for me because I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt like I was, like being a service, again. And really navigating that, really realizing that I really sucked at sales and not willing to go back. And every week we would meet at the office at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. And he would sit there with me and rewire the way I was thinking.
Interesting. How?
I don't know. Like, I think he did some of the stuff that I do, like with breakthrough work.
Okay.
Where he would say, because I don't know exactly what he would be doing, just he would keep reframing me and like rewiring.
Like you didn't know it until like now, like looking back, like that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now.
Yeah, he would reframe that way I was thinking. He would make me read all these books. He made me read like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Think and Grow Rich, like all the traditional personal development books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He made me read all these books. And I started, I went to my first Tony Robbins event. I crewed on Tony Robbins' team for 3 years. And it just started changing everything. Like my whole life started changing. And up until a point where COVID hit in 2020 and I lost my job. And I had to do another moment where I burned the boats again and decided to change my life. But that was consistently like a pattern of like wanting to become more and feeling like there was something inside of me that was supposed to do stuff. And when you feel like that and when you really believe that you're supposed to change the world, it's hard when your reality doesn't match up with that. So it's really confusing because you're just like, I know I'm supposed to do great things, but my bank account isn't showing it. And I don't feel good about the clothes that I'm wearing. I feel awkward and it's just weird. And I don't feel like a leader because my sales suck and this sucks. And it was just a confusing time because I was just like putting into practice things that show up today. And that's why I say it's so important to have tools, because I've manifested my life today from those moments. I spoke life over myself every single day. In fact, I wrote this out. I want to read this to you.
Yeah, it's pulled up.
I wrote this during that time when I felt like I sucked, and I would speak over myself what I wanted to create in my life. Here. So I'd write out these little incantations that Tony Robbins talks about. So I did his, which is, I now command my subconscious mind to directing me to helping as many people as possible alive today by giving me the strength, the persuasion, the emotion, whatever it takes to get these people to change their lives now. And that God's wealth is circulating in my life. His wealth flows to me in avalanches of abundance. All my needs, goals, and desires are met instantaneously by infinite intelligence, for I'm one with God, and God is everything. I would speak that, and then I would do the money flows to me easily, frequently, abundantly, or what is it? Where is it? Yeah, money flows to me easily, frequently, and abundantly in God's perfect way with no burden added to it. I'm the master of money. Money does not own me. I own it. It serves me. I don't serve it. I'm the head, not the tail, above and not below. I will lend to many nations and will not borrow. I am a billionaire. That's right. I said I'm a billionaire. Scarcity and lack have no place in my life. And I would do the billionaire instead of millionaire because, like, shoot for the moon so you can land among the stars. Yep. I'm like, if I make it a millionaire, we'll be great. And so I would do all that. And then I wrote this one, which was, I now command my subconscious mind to step up. I'm influential everywhere that I go. Now, remember, this is 25-year-old Kayla.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This girl is not influential everywhere she goes. This girl walked in pantyhose on her first day of work, and they ripped in the bathroom. And I was wearing this awkward skirt that I got from like Kohl's or something with really awkward shoes. I sweated. I was so awkward. I stuttered. Like, I was not like...
Yeah, what was like 1 week in that B2B job for you? Like, do you remember, can you like paint a picture of like what a week
and feeling so stupid every single day.
Wow.
I just felt like an idiot. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. No one would talk to me. I just know a lot of people didn't like me. I was just having a lot of issues, okay?
Yeah.
Lots of issues. But I was speaking this over myself.
Anyways,
and believing this. And now it's so crazy because this is me today, which is so weird because this was not me then. Yeah. So I now command my subconscious mind to step up. I'm influential everywhere that I go. I breathe success. People are drawn to me. God's favor flows in my life. I'm wise way beyond my years. I love others fully and wholeheartedly. I am the queen of sales. I find new clients easily and they want to work with me. I enjoy what I do. I'm relaxed and I speak and passionate at the same time. I speak clearly and directly with absolute certainty and purpose. I am the absolute best choice. I would speak that over myself. Like queen of sales. Like guys, like I was not the queen of sales.
When you say speaking this over yourself, like you're going in your mirror every single morning at like
5 o'clock in the morning in the mirror, and I was just speaking it over myself. Anytime something bad would happen, like a check would bounce, something would come out of my bank account that I forgot about, and I'm like, crap, I would be yelling about the money affirmations out loud. I remember crying in my car driving down the highway, just like shit was bad, like crying, like saying this over myself. And all that shit added up. It added up because I don't know if I would be where I am today if I didn't psychologically train my brain to believe that I was a different person.
Right.
The identity shifted and therefore the actions shifted, you know? And it's so crazy how it all like added up. And it was like, God was like, oh, like, we're not ready yet. We need more struggle and more things that you need to go through in order for you to continue to grow. So it's like, oh, let me hit you in the face again. I think that when you get into a higher state, new levels, new devils, okay? Like, you want to be a leader, you want to be one of the best in the world, like the stuff that you're going to go up against is crazy. You have to psychologically really train yourself to believe, you know, about who you want to be so you don't get like shooken up and willing to go through the adversity, because I lost my job. And I'm in Houston and I'm bartending again on the weekends just to try to make sure I make it by, which I never thought I would do that again. COVID hit, but you know, some places in Houston are still open. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking around my apartment and I made a lot of money in B2B sales and I spent a lot of money in B2B sales. So I had my little Audi TTS. Her name was Schwarz, which is like black in German. Yeah. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. And my little apartment that had all this stuff in it, that was really nice stuff. And I was behind my rent by $756 and it was due in 2 days. All my credit cards were maxed out. And I'm like, how am I going to pay my rent, first of all? And I find a program that can teach me how to sell the training that I was doing online, because I was training and going through all of Tony Robbins' breakthrough stuff. And I was doing behavioral psychology, NLP, strategic intervention. And I'm like, how does he get somebody to change their way of talking? Yeah. So I'm like, how does he do that work? And I was really obsessed with the way the brain works. I'm like, how does he get someone to think one way and then change their way of thinking and go another way? Right. So I'm researching and learning. I'm going through all this training. And I was like, I'm going to work with CEOs and help them how to communicate better to their employees. That's what I was going to do. Yeah. I called it like Lions training or something like. And I worked with the head of a solar company, the head of an insurance company. Wow. Right. And so I like was working with these guys and helping them.
How'd you get in with them?
Like meeting people. Right. You know, the first one I met at the bar that I was with, right. The solar guy. I was like, I'm going to help him like break through some of this stuff so he can be the most powerful version he can be.
Oh, it's great.
I was like, oh, I'm obsessed. Like, how do I sell this? I had no idea 25 how to sell
too. 25. And how old were these guys that you were or the CEOs that you were helping?
One guy was in his 30s. Another guy later was like, you know, probably in his 50s or something. Like, yeah, but I was a little firecracker.
But you were confident enough to be able to go in there and be like, I can help you.
I'm going to transform you. I'm going to change something in you, radical change. You're going to pull out the lion that's inside of you and you will never doubt yourself. My 25-year-old
little self.
Oh, I will. Like, oh my God. But I was on fire, you know. Anyways, yeah. I had no idea how to sell at that point to online, right? So the insurance person, I had no idea how to get that person at that point. And I'm like, man, like, how am I going to do this? Yeah. And so I find this program. They can show me how to do it. It's $12,000. Okay. Again, I'm behind my rent by $756. It's due in 2 days. $12,000. And I had to put a down payment of $3,000. And I remember this lady on the phone, my sales rep, that's telling me this. And she's like, I believe that you can make it happen and you can be resourceful enough to make it happen. And she really believed in me. And at that time, we were doing Tony Robbins' crew online virtually, and I'm crewing the event virtually. It's the first event that he ever did virtually, and I was helping crew it. And I'm doing the event, I'm like doing all the things, and the event plane flew out of my house, and I'm looking around at my place. I'm like, how is this my life? I learned all this stuff from like McLaren guy. You know, how is it that I haven't implemented any of this stuff? Mm-hmm. You know, how is it that my life's still here? How am I in a, like, you know, a tiny ass apartment, you know, and not managing my money, and this is my, it was not okay. And I made a decision that day that wouldn't be my life anymore. And I was like, I'm going to find this money. And I sold everything that I owned. I sold my bed. I sold my daughter's bed. We slept on the floor that night.
What did Claire say when you wanted to sell her bed?
I didn't ask. When they're 6, you know, it's like, we're on an adventure.
We're on an adventure. It's going to be so fun.
It's going to be great.
We're going to have a little blanket. We're going to have a sleepover. We're going to make a tent.
Sleepover.
We're going to go
It's
It's going to be great.
It's funny. That's funny, yeah. She didn't know. I sold my blender. I'm like, how can we sell the most things? I sold my carpet, my bookshelf, my mirror. I had a huge, like, 8-foot mirror. It was gorgeous. I sold that. I sold my desk. I sold my blender. My plates, anything. I sold my perfume. I sold my first designer bag. I had this guy buy me a designer bag. It was a neon yellow Burberry bag.
Oh my goodness.
Right? It was only like $1,100 retail, but I remember selling this to this lady that was some African American lady that was like so bougie and so like fabulous. And she was in this white Lexus with red interior. And I remember like, can we hear this? I sold it for like $200 or $300, and I'm like, and she's like, oh, it's a beautiful bag. Why are you getting rid of it? And I remember looking at her, I'm like, because my dreams are more important than this.
Wow.
And I remember like crying, walking back inside.
Wait.
For this bag, stupid bag. I was so sad. And I remember selling my perfume to one of my friends, and just like it showed me that material possessions didn't mean that much.
Yeah.
They didn't, especially after I just went through all that stuff with being around all these cars and all this like money and stuff. It was so beautiful. Like my dreams were more important than this. And I raised $4,200 in 36 hours. I packed up my car and my daughter in it, packed up all of our things, and we drove from Houston to Miami. I knew no one, but I wanted to be in Miami. I felt like that was my home. I felt like I was supposed to be there. And I was at an Airbnb room that had cockroaches in it. And I locked myself in that room, in that place, for a month. And every day I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would train through this training. And I would write down every single word that was in this portal, and I would pause and play it and write it all down, because I thought I wasn't going to be able to pay the second payment.
Oh, gosh.
And I sold my first client. That's when I got the insurance person. And I got my first condo in Miami, which was like definitely not anything close to comparing to what I have now. And but I was so grateful that we had a home.
Yeah.
You know, Claire and I had a home. We had a place to stay. And it was just a really interesting time in my life, trying to navigate being on my own and navigate trying to make money and not be in a job, and you know, trying to do all this stuff and hustling for that little girl. And I went through hell and back, you know, being in Miami, partying in Miami, you know, there was so much stuff that went into that, but it was just like constantly rescuing myself and knowing that like I did that, and I had the resiliency to leave everything behind, burn all the boats, which was again the second time, and choosing my dreams, choosing what I wanted and the opportunity more than my fear, and doing it for her.
Kayla, why didn't you just take the easy route though? Just like go get another job.
Because of what happened when I was 12. Because I knew that something was coming. Like even now, in this moment, I haven't even touched the trajectory of where I'm going. Like I haven't yet. And that scares me because of how life keeps hurting me. And I'm like, am I going to go through more growth? Because I don't know if I can handle any more growth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like almost like peace. Like all the hard work is over and I'm ready. Like this version of me, I trust her so much. And I'm so grounded. And every other version of me has been a huge healing process. And this version of me, I don't feel a need to prove myself. I don't feel inadequate. I don't feel like broken, like sad little girl. Like I don't feel like that. I feel loved. I feel grounded. I feel connected. I feel on purpose. I feel in integrity in every area of my life. All of that stuff. Like I'm not even drinking right now anymore. Like I just like there's not anything where I'm trying to escape or numb in my life. I'm centered. I'm being. Yeah. And therefore I feel like I have a little bit of peace. Like there's not going to be another thing that comes that I have to like grow out of. Even Jeremy and I went through that thing. I'm like, man, I hope that this is like the last fucking situation,
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like I'm in a place now where I'm like, okay, like I'm so excited for the next steps because of this karmic cycle that I healed from.
Yeah.
Not only mine, but my mother's and my grandmother's and her mothers and her grandmothers, went through about ourselves and about loving ourselves and about healing that so that my daughter doesn't have to go through the same thing. And she has stuff that she's healing from too, like how we can heal together and make sure that we are paving the ways for other women and their daughters to change the trajectory of their lives.
So, what is Kayla like now?
She's not as fun as she used to be.
Not as fun. You are fun.
Yeah, but not in a destructive way.
Yeah.
I used to be very destructive, and I think that, even when I went to Miami, I had this little moment where I just like let loose, and there was a moment where Claire had to go back to Texas for 6 months and live with my sister because she was failing school because of COVID. She would like hang up on the teacher if they made her mad.
Claire.
I know. I would come in and she'd be watching Netflix. I'm like, you're supposed to be in English. She's like, yeah, but Miss So-and-so said this and this, and I didn't like that, so I hung up on her. This girl. I'm like, really brilliant. You can't do that, And so she had to go back because she was failing school. And for 6 months in my adult life, I didn't have responsibilities. And I partied hard. I raged. Like everything underneath the sun. Like I was just like, we're going for it. I had a 10-day Tulum rager. Like at one point for New Year's. Like
let's go.
Like I didn't go to sleep for days. Like I had the best time of my life. Okay, like don't regret that time. It was great. Dancing all night long, like Space in Miami till 11 a.m. in the morning. Like dun 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 dun. But my skin looked so bad. Like I had so many breakouts. Like. Don't do drugs, kids. Like I'm just like I had a great time, right? But I was also escaping from all the pain that I had never healed from, right? And my friend told me to go to a workout in Miami Beach, and Melissa Rocky, right? I had met her before, and I said I was going to go, so I go there. And she's so calm and mellow. And normally I don't know her like that. Normally she was just very like abrupt and like to the point. But she was so calm. I was still awake from the day before. Okay. I had been up all night having fun.
Great.
And I'm at a workout now. I'm like still getting it done. I was like, you gotta be careful with like, you have no idea what anyone's ever going through.
Right.
And I'm like, how are you like? I'm like, whatever you're on, I want to be on that. And I found out that she just went through a deep trauma intervention program. And I was like, whatever it is, I'm going. And at that time as well, I had the guy that I thought was like the love of my life leaves and moves to Colombia. My heart's broken.
Oh no.
You choose something you like, why is there, you know? And I'm like, the world's over.
The world's over.
And I need to work on myself.
Yeah.
And so I go through this deep healing process. It was the hardest 4 months I've ever went through, the most healed I've ever went through. Half the people that started the program, half the people quit.
Wow.
And through this thing, I healed so many deep parts of myself. There was so much healing. And if you ever go to like a healing type of event or a seminar, you go and when you leave, everything like goes back, right? Because you're really high from the event and then you go back. This wasn't like that. You go and you do deep work, you come back, you go 2 weeks later, you do more deep work. And then for the rest of the 3 months, they hold you accountable to the new person you're becoming.
Wow.
So every week, right, breaking through stuff, being triggered on purpose, bringing it up to the surface, healing through it for 4 months, where I had to go to Austin once a month for 4 months. And at the end of it, they all vote on like who was the torchbearer, which was like who was the leader the whole time. And they voted for me. And I won. Well, like me and one other person tied again.
Of course you did.
Again, right? Like giving me permission to be a leader. And it was the first time in my life where people voted for me. Because any other time before that, I always had issues at work or issues anywhere else where people didn't like me and I didn't understand. I thought it was they were the problem. I didn't realize I was the problem. I was the problem. I was triggering lots of resistance and I didn't understand why. And it's because I thought that people would like me if I talked about me. So whenever I met somebody new, I would tell them about all the accomplishments that I was working on. I didn't realize that I looked like a freaking asshole. And so I had permission at that point to be a leader. And it changed my life. It changed my daughter's life. Taking responsibility, you know, stepping into something new. Before that, I went back to B2C sales in between all that. And I was like, I need discipline in my life. Right before my daughter came back, I'm like, I need discipline. Right. And I started like $220 a day, and I was in an environment that would cause me to be disciplined, and then went through all that healing work, and then went into event sales, and then decided to start my own thing, and that's when I met Jeremy, you know, and going through that journey together and us meeting, which I have a whole story on this. It's on, I'll link the YouTube video for our story on us meeting here in this video. But that was so cool because I felt like God was preparing my heart to be ready to meet somebody, you know, and then preparing his heart over this past year with me, and all of this coming together so beautifully, like, it's so beautiful. And I'm just so grateful because it's not over. I'm grateful for where I've been. Grateful for the women that I get to speak life into. Like life is not easy a lot of times, and if you are willing to continuously put yourself out there, continuously burn the boats, because with everything that Jeremy and I went through, I burned the boats. I was like, all right, bye, new life, duh. Yep. And willing to do that with the one thing I wanted more than anything, which was being in a relationship.
Yes. With
somebody else. I wanted that more than anything, and being afraid of abandonment. And then that happening and me choosing myself and choosing, like, I think that was the tipping point for me of not being so afraid anymore of things in my outside world affecting me, and that I'm centered with me, and that I have control of me, and I can create the life that I want, and that I always have my back.
Yes.
Like, having that feels like grounded and centered, and I'm just so grateful to continuously do the work and to live by example and to still fuck up and be human and to never quit, you know.
So what would you tell a young girl that may be going through that right now? Like, if you could shorten it into like one sentence or two sentences, like what would you speak life into that?
One step at a time, baby girl. We try to do a million steps.
Yeah.
One step. The moments in my life where I've been able to have the highest amount of quantum leaps and change everything so quickly have been my moments of being in surrender with God. Moments of me literally being on my knees, bawling my eyes out, going, God, help me, take this. and being the most clear, which means that I was exercising, I'm eating the right food, I'm not drinking, I'm on my shit, I'm learning every day. Like, there's certain habits that you do in order to be the most grounded. And anytime that I feel off balance, I'm like, which habit am I missing? What am I not doing that I normally do that gets me better results? And having women around you, man, like, you have to have community around you of people that think bigger than you. Because if I come to a girlfriend maybe 5 years ago and talk about a problem, they're gonna be like, meh, 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 oh my God, like, and do the gossipy weird thing with me. Versus if I have a problem now and I bring it to a friend, they'll be like, do you want me to listen, or do you want me to give you some feedback right now?
Right.
And like, tell me how it is.
The difference in communication.
This is where you're doing wrong. This is where you fucked up. I'm like, oh, okay, how do we fix it? And then we work together on it. And just being in a state of accountability and leadership and responsibility, and having people around you that pull you up and make you think bigger and not let you stay in the dumps and get you out of the house and get you to the gym, and people that have your back. You know, I would definitely recommend that girl to be around other women that are doing the damn thing, and making sure that they have people that are supporting them. Like, that's why we have a community of, like, when we have 10,000 girls in that group now, you know?
Heck yeah.
Which is really cool, just being around other women that are doing the damn thing that you can be supported with, and that can hold your hand and say, hey, I believe in you, you're beautiful, you got this. And they're not being catty, they're being honest, and they're being real.
I knew you weren't going to be able to answer that question in 1 to 2 sentences.
Nope. Probably not.
So what do we do now? If somebody's wanting to seek this type of growth, then, like, what can they do and how can they get support with that?
Well, I think that's why women come to us.
Yeah.
Because we don't just do sales training. Like,
Right.
I don't care if you are making enough money to where you're in a fancy new car. I've been in a fancy new car and felt euphoric for 5 minutes and got home after I bought it and cried in my freaking driveway because I felt empty inside.
Yeah.
It only does so much.
Right.
I want to transform who you are internally and help build that confidence inside of you and that love inside of you, and to where you feel calm, you don't need things outside of you, and help you grow and heal to be the most powerful version of you. And so I think that's why you get to be in a group like ours. If you want sales training, we don't just work on sales, we work on you. And that's why people seek us out, you know? So if that's you, you should text us.
Text us
At
323-498-2439.
Yeah, text us, and me or my team will be there and we'll help you, and just ask us a question. Ask us a question on sales. Ask us a question on your personal life and, like, how we can help you grow, and, like, let's see how we can support you.
Yeah, this was beautiful, Kayla.
323-498-2439.
Thanks
Thanks for being here, Natalie.